Welcome back to the channel, everybody. I'm Coach Colleen. You already know Coach Cory, and we're here for another episode of whatever we feel like talking about, but specifically how it relates to all of our friends that are still connected to the ag ed profession. But we're not here alone. Cory, please introduce our special guests for all of the viewers.
Sure. So today we have joining us Mr. Bulmaro Bribiesca. Is that how you say your last name?
That's how you say it,
Bribiesca?
man.
Okay. All right. Cool. First try. There we go. um, I have had the pleasure of knowing Bull for almost 4 years now, right? Was it 2021, I think, or
Man.
2020? So when I was
20,
hired,
4 years, 2020.
yeah, so 4 years, that's wild. That time flies. So when I was hired at the college,
No.
Bull was hired on as an adjunct instructor for the welding class, which was part of our program. So through him and or through the guys that I worked with and John, I got to meet Bull and got to know Bull, and I think we instantaneously kind of hit it off. This dude's a gamer. You could just see that look in his eye. He's driven. He's motivated. He's got a mission, and I respect the fuck out of that, to be honest. And we've stayed in contact and become even closer since then. When I'm going through some shit, this is the guy that I talk to quite often, and I think vice versa. So we'll let you introduce yourself. Otherwise, I'll talk the whole time. But just wanted to give a fair, welcoming introduction. So, Bull, tell us where you're at and what's going on right now.
Dude, we're just finishing off the year, I guess. Just a little bit about myself. I'm a third-year ag teacher, finishing up my master's program. Dude, just trying to figure everything out right now. Trying to, I guess, find the balance or whatever. But
Right.
It's been fun, man. It's been dope.
Where are you teaching at?
Currently employed with Ripon Unified. So at Ripon High School.
And what do you teach?
Just all the mechanics, intro to mechanics, welding, and fabrication. So it's been good. It's been fun. I hear that I was in the staff lounge yesterday, and they were complaining about all their essays they got to read. I'm like, dude, I am so happy I don't do that stuff because that does not sound fun or interesting to me. But for sure, man, welding's been dope. We just had our banquet on Thursday night, and like the kids were, it's like really heartfelt. They had their speeches for the advisors, and I'm just like, where were these kids all these 4 years? I'm like, man, these are not the kids that I know that cuss and do all this stuff. And I'm like, oh, you're the reason why I want to go to trade school. I'm like, man, this is dope. So it's been good. It's been fun.
That's awesome. Speaking of that kind of heartfelt validation, I'm curious, and I don't want to tell your story for you, but what got you into the profession? Did you have a similar experience like your students, or did you come into the profession by way of a different journey? Tell us about that part.
Yeah, I guess it sparked in high school. I wasn't going to go to college. My ag teacher needed a farmhand, and I just applied, and he said the only way I was like 2-3 weeks out of from graduation. So if you like this job, the only way you can keep this job is if you go to college. So the week before graduation, I signed up for a community college, Mount Sac, and I was waitlisted for all my classes, and all I needed to show him was my schedule, and he's like, all right, you're good. So I ended up taking like the easy classes, like history of rock and roll, music appreciation. I was like, man, this college stuff is easy. But then it seemed fun because every day was different from watching them. It was like they're in the classroom, then they went to fair, then they did this, and they started doing other things, and I liked it. So he said you'd be a good ag teacher, and that was that. And I ran with it, but I didn't have like, I don't have your single subject credential. I ended up going a different route because of COVID, which was kind of in hindsight was actually really great because I got paid for my first year. So I got to meet great people just like Cory, and it's been awesome. I had to do the CT credential, um, which at first was like, man, everybody's doing student teaching, and I kind of felt like I'm like, really, I couldn't. I was 2 points away from passing the CBEST, and then the world shut down. I had it rescheduled, and I just couldn't take it anymore. So then I went to Johnny's office and I was like, dude, this is everything that I've been planning for the last 4 years is pretty much over. So took a year off and I worked at Costco, just trying to make ends meet. And that's when I applied at Reedley College and kept going with it. It's been fun though.
How do you think so? Your first kind of introduction to the teaching realm was at the college level, um, unless I'm mistaken there. But having not done the traditional route of initial student teaching, final student teaching, how do you think that has helped you? Or do you think it was beneficial, or do you think it was maybe counter what's the word, like not counterproductive, starting out teaching college students and then moving in to the full-time high school teaching role?
There's a difference. I felt like, well, as an adjunct, I was there for a semester, so I didn't have that connection with the students like I do now. But I do have to say, it was better for me because I'm that type of person that will, if I don't know something, I'll learn it on my own.
Mhm.
So not not being babied as much, I guess. Like I don't want to say like student teachers are baby because everybody has their own story and their own, everybody does their thing a little bit different. But I was just kind of thrown in there, and they're like, these are your classes. This is what you're teaching. Good luck. I'm like, all right. I have an idea of what an ag teacher is supposed to do. So I guess I'm going based off with that idea of what an ag teacher is supposed to do. And I've just been doing it. So it's been good. Like I said, man, the kids, I have a great connection with the kids. And even those quiet kids that don't talk, they say, Mr. B, you're a good teacher. So I think it's been good. I don't recommend it just because the first year was hard. It was really hard. And there was several times where I'm like, dude, why am I even doing this? I had like a 45-minute commute and I'm like, why am I doing this? So the first year, I'm like, I'm just gonna go back to welding. Like this isn't it. But looking now, finishing off my third year, I'm like, yeah, I can do this.
What do you think has caused that shift for you, going from how you felt in year one and how hard it was? Tell us, like, what are the things, I guess, that you feel like maybe you figured out a little bit, or are there any components that, like, over time you just developed, I don't know, better mastery over yourself? What do you think that is that's made the difference between year 1 and 3?
For sure, the classroom management, the kids know there's a sequence, especially like the older kids, they understand that if they don't get their stuff done, there's a consequence, whether that be a failing grade or it's a missing assignment until they get it done. But I think it's just for sure is the classroom management because now I understand the kids. I can get a new set of kids, and they by the end of the semester they'll have an idea of how the class is supposed to work, or by the end of the month, because they just have that understanding. They talk to other kids. They say, how does this class work? So I think that's the biggest part. Um, Another shift though was I moved maybe 5, 6 minutes away from work, so I don't have to think about which job I see on the freeway and that I could apply for. It's just I have an idea, and everything gets easier. Um, you know, Cory, I'm sure Johnny told you about that analogy. You know, your first 5 years is the hardest. So I'm going into year 4, which is supposedly the easiest year. Um, I think that was the biggest shift for me. I don't, I don't try to take on as much as I can do. I know what I can do, and I try to do those things pretty well. I don't overload myself with things that I can't, you know. And I do rely a lot on the students. The students, at first, it's hard because they don't know you, you know. And that's another thing that COVID really helped with, because those uh those freshmen didn't really know the previous instructor. So technically, these seniors now were my or my the juniors now are my students, because they didn't really know it. Everything was virtual. They didn't really get to know them, so they know me and they know my standards. So that's really helped.
Coming out of year 3, because I was told, and I would agree with this sentiment, year 3, there's something about it that just kind of, like, your classes start to make sense. You have a lot of stuff figured out at that point, but it's just kind of the shittiest year. And I don't know why. I've tried to think about it. I put a lot of thought into it, and I'm not sure why year 3 was so, like, miserable compared to 1 and 2 or past then. Um, Leaving year 3, what's your mentality going into year 4? What's Bull going to do different? What's Bull got agenda wise to build off of years 1 through 3, and to kind of grow not only your program, but or your classrooms, but your program, your community, those types of things. What do you have in, what does that vision look like to you?
For me, I think it's a little bit of more attention to detail. You know, sometimes my desk can get messy, so making sure that I'm that person that I say I am. You know, I say that I'm gonna, oh, pick up after yourselves, and then how can they walk in my office and my desk is a mess? You know what I mean? Um, just changing things up in the class curriculum wise, adding a few more projects here and there for the students so they can take home. That's what they like, you know, that's why they signed up for the course, you know. So switching things up so I can challenge myself a little more. Making sure that they critically think for themselves, because I get tired of, what should my settings be on this machine? You know, things like that. Um, other than that, man, I'm just gonna keep rocking with this thing, dude. I feel like, as far as personally, uh, I'm gonna just try to keep growing, dude. I don't think I don't think I'm the person that I'm meant to be yet, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. How do you influence that culture in the classroom, right? Like, how do you talked about, like, the settings on their welders, and they're always asking for your input on that.
Yeah.
They don't want to think, right? They want you to think for them, and that's pretty common, I would say, with today's just people in general, right? I can be that way sometimes. How do you influence that, and kind of incentivize them to critical think through things? And then I think on the personal side too, that it ties in. What's your plan, or how do you make that come to fruition?
Well, I'm gonna do trial and error. I'm gonna purposely mess up the machines, you know, and then just see how they adjust it. You know, if they're welding on thin metal and it burns a hole, why did it do this? Well, I don't know. Let's go check. And then they'll get that. Oh, that's why I'm running too hot. You know, just kind of make their own deals up, make things up as I go. You know, it's funny. I did last semester for my welding kids. I did this assessment, and at the very bottom, I wrote, tack everything up and get it signed by the instructor. If this is not signed, it's an automatic F. I had 3 kids do that. 3 kids tacked it, and 2 of the kids were in the next class, and it's because that one kid told them. So it's like, let's pay a little bit more attention to things, you know? So I didn't dock it against them. They were all scared, man. I just said, you know, these are things that I use as teaching material. Sometimes in life, you're not going to be graded on things, but start paying closer attention.
Mm. Oh God, I love that thought so much that there's going to be things in life that you're going to suck at, and you're probably going to suck at it for a while. But there's so much that we have control over in our day-to-day life, that like you can do the little stuff. You can do the littlest things with excellence, you know, with attention to detail, with intentionality. And I'm like writing notes all over my page as you're talking. You're so freaking cool. But you said a couple things that stood out to me. And a minute ago you said, I don't think I'm the person I'm supposed to be yet, in referencing like year 4 and just kind of personal growth. What, if anything, do you do to be intentional in that way? Like, is there anything you do in your daily routine? Like, what does continuing to kind of lean into who you're becoming, what's that look like? Like, what are the types of things you do for that?
I think the morning routine is the biggest thing for me. This week I slacked big time. You know, my girlfriend was away, and it felt it just felt different. You know, we wake up, we go to the gym, we come home, we make breakfast, and like that for me that's like the morning, you know. And with her being gone, it was different. I just didn't feel like myself, I guess. So we need to get back into it. So I guess as far as what you're asking, I don't feel like I don't feel like I'm fully developed yet. You know, I still feel like there's so much room for growth. Um, I know there's things that I slack on, like I could read more, you know. Corey and I always talk, we're like, oh, dude, did you read this book? Did you read this book? And yeah, we read them, but like, did we really understand them, or are we just saying the things that we wanted to hear, you know? Um, I don't feel like I'm meant to be a teacher for my entire career. Um, I don't know. That's just a feeling that I have. Like I feel like this is a good stepping stone for me, but I don't think I'm meant to be a teacher. I feel like I'm meant to be doing something bigger, you know. Um, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I am. Maybe this is it, and I've reached it. But you know, there's only one way to know is you just keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. What what does that look like with your students? You brought up connection a lot also. That when, like in year 1, for all of those different kind of reasons and factors that were at play, you didn't have the connection with your students, but now you do. And going to the banquet, hearing them say all the things, you're like, I didn't even know you felt that way when you were in class. How do you, or what do you attribute, I guess, to the connection that you've built? Is there anything you did on purpose? Is it just you being there, you know, multiple years in a row, and so there's like a comfortability there? They know you're going to be there. How do you go about building connection?
Uh, you know what's funny? The instructors that I've taught here at this school have been here forever. You know, I have one teaching partner I want to say she's been here for 25 years. I have another one who's 23. And then the instructor that I replaced was here for 15 or 16 years. So coming into this department, I'm like, okay, I got some big shoes to fill. You know, I went to Ken Hoypel's one of his parties, and he's like, Bull, I heard you got hired at Ripon. I said, yes, sir. And he's like, you're replacing, you know, and he's like, you got some big shoes to fill. And he's like, and I know you can do it. And then I had like a post evaluation meeting with one of my administrators, and they were like, um, I was so worried when you were coming in, because how can this 21-year-old come into this department and make an impact when this instructor was here for several years and had such a close connection with the kids. Um, so I was worried, but I didn't think too much about that. I just, like I said, you just got to jump in. You'll make the connections as you go. I you start learning you start learning who there's people that are really invested in the community. So you start learning them, you start getting their number, you start sending them a message, you send them a meme, and then you start going from there, Say, hey, happy Thanksgiving, or Merry Christmas. And then they'll return the favor. I feel like I've done a pretty good job with the connections here as far as the community goes. Um, I have, you know, I go to lunch with one of the guys, or we have dinner. He invites me over. He gives me some of the meat he bought from fair. I guess the people see that you're invested. They see that you're making connection with their kids. They say the kids go back, and if you're not doing a good job, or you yell at them too much, or you're mean or whatever, the parents are going to hear that stuff. Like, how'd your welding class go? Oh, Mr. B was on one today, and he was mad. He couldn't stop yelling at us. And if they constantly hear that stuff, the parents are going to get a little worried. But if you make that connection with the kid, remember the small little details, and constantly remind them why you're there, I think you'll do fine.
I want to go back to that filling shoes portion of what you were saying. I can't tell you how many times I've heard that. And there's always somebody that has to say, "Whoa, you got big shoes to fill." It kind of, looking back, it kind of fucks with your confidence a little bit. Honestly.
Yeah.
Like, how am I ever gonna fill the shoes of this legend? Like, you just need to be you. That's what
Yeah.
you need to do. You need to give an effort. You need to show up every day and be ready for game time, and just do what you do best. And, you replacing Ryan after 15, 16 years, yeah, he was a legend in that community. But there's a chance that Bolt could be a legend in that community too, right? And it does take a couple years, I think, for them to not forget, but move on from that old instructor that you replaced. But at the end of the day, life goes on, right? Everybody moves on. That person's in a different place in their life than you are, and now you're the guy. And so how are you
Absolutely.
going to be the guy, right? And so it was the same situation at the college for me, replacing a guy who had been there for 20 some years and kind of built that program. And it's like, big shoes to fill, right? Well, fuck, I've been here before. No big deal, right? You just show up and you do your thing. And so honestly, I respect that about you. Is what I'm going into here, because hearing that, it could fuck with your confidence, and it could really kind of put somebody into like, I'll never be able to fill that person's shoes. And that's bullshit, honestly. At the end of the day, if you show up and do your job and do it well, and are always looking to get better and make the program better, people will buy in. They'll get in your court, and then you become the guy.
Absolutely. You keep saying it fucks with your confidence. I think it can build your confidence too. Why not? Why not me? They hired me for a reason. They see something. Why not me?
Sure.
What can I? But yeah, I think I can see what you're saying though. If you don't have that confidence to start off with, like I said, man,
You were talking about how it could be a confidence boost as well.
Yeah.
And to be honest, that's a great point, because if you are the chosen one, right, for lack of a better term, that's like, oh, you got big shoes to fill. Well, but you're the guy we chose to do it. Like, that's
Yeah.
pretty dope as well. So you can look at both ends of that. I speak for myself, and I guess I should have made that more clear, because I didn't have confidence. I was always worried that I wasn't going to be good enough or adequate enough, and I struggle with that to this day still. Even the amount of growth that I've seen. So having that mentality at such a young age for you, and replacing somebody who had been
yeah,
a staple in a community for a long time, like, That's a big deal, dude. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I remember when I went from my first teaching placement to my second one, where I spent the majority of my time in the classroom. I replaced someone who had been there, I don't know, like 3 or 4 years. She would wind up going back to the industry. But when I first replaced her, and this is after, I think, her first year teaching, I was still student teaching at the same site. Long story short, she had a very particular way of doing things. It wasn't right, wasn't wrong, but it was just her, it was her way. And so when I got hired, full time to kind of take over those classes, the first, I would say, solid 2 years, based on the group of kids that were there, all the time it was, well, that's not how Miss So-and-so da 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 da. Or, well, we always blah, 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 right? And I spent so much time trying to appease and accommodate and do the things that, according to the kids, like, this is how we've always done it. We can't let go of this thing. And so I would try to keep it. And then I would just kind of inject myself into the little places I thought I could, like, make that happen. If I could go back, I would have thrown nukes everywhere. I would have blown some of that shit up and been like, hey, that person was amazing at what they did their way. Guess who's here? Awesome Lawson. We're going to try some things my way. It might work, it might not. And if there's something that you're willing to, like, die on the hill over, let's talk about it. But otherwise, just because that person, like, had a certain kind of way doesn't mean we have to keep doing it when they're not even here. And I think, Cory, too, like, when I hear you say that part about how it can be, I think for a lot of young or newer to the profession teachers, it can be a confidence killer. It's setting the tone, or it's starting that message that you and I have talked about before, which is, you know, everybody, like, if you want to be accepted in the profession, you need to show up and kind of do things like everybody else. Well, Jesus, like, there's only one Bull, there's one Awesome Lawson, there's one Cory. Like, show up and do do it your way, do it with excellence. You know what I mean? Like, I just, I get excited about this stuff.
Well, what's funny is, like, so I think we're all familiar with Daryl Hirschler, but he told me, when you take over your own program, and I'm sure, Bull, you had to do something this way, but, like, when you take over your own program, you need to change one thing, like a big change, but something that makes sense. Go in the shop and change the way the tables are set up, or move your cutting table to a certain place, just so that when those students that were ingrained in the old way, or were very loyal to the old teacher, come in, they're like, okay, this is the way it's going to be. And to be honest, sometimes you have to have that conversation with them too, because my first year at Madera, the students were like, well, it's not the way Williams did it. And I'm like, look, I know the guy. Like, I know him well. There's shit that he does really, really well. And some of the stuff I do is going to be the same as that. Some of the stuff's going to be different. That's cool. But this is my show now. And we're going to work together. We're going to learn together, right? And just setting that tone. And so, knowing, again, the shoes that you were having to fill there, Bull, we've all been in that situation. And it just seems like you've done a really good job of it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let's go down the go ahead, Colleen.
Nope, you're good.
So let's go down the personal development side of things. So Bull and I talk frequently. And again, I would say, actually, the 3 people that I talk to most about fitness are all on the same screen together. So this is kind of a surreal moment for me. But, just knowing the amount of discipline that you have as a person, the dedication that you put into the fitness side. I want to share a story that Bull actually shared with me. So Bull completed 75 hard, something that I wasn't able to complete. I failed on day 63. And if you don't know what 75 hard is, it's an intense program. It's a personal development program where for 75 days, You have to complete 2 workouts. One has to be outdoors. You have to drink a gallon of water. You have to read 10 pages of a personal development book. You have to take a progress picture, and you cannot have a cheat meal. You have to eat clean. And I think I might be missing something.
I think you got it all.
Is that it? Okay. Anyways, it's an
Read the
intense.
book?
What's that?
Yeah. Reading the 10 pages of a nonfiction book.
Yep, the 10 pages I got. So, anyways, you have to do that every day for 75 days. And if you fuck up, you're supposed to go back to day 1, right? Even if
Yeah.
you don't take your progress picture. And
Yeah.
it's a very disciplined program, and you feel different after. Again, I didn't finish it. I wasn't a completer. I just finished out the 75 days. Oh, no alcohol is one of them. That's the other one.
Yeah, you're right.
That was the hardest part for me, by the way. Anyways, moving on. That this program is legitimately like a mental toughness program, and my man here decided to do it, and it landed him going through summer conference. And I don't know how some of the new ag teachers are, but I know, again, going back to the alcohol thing, summer conference was a lot of fun to drink with people, right? Um, Bull told me a story of where he was literally standing in Bull's Tavern, I'm pretty sure, in downtown Slough, where all the ag teachers are congregated. Everybody's drinking, and he wasn't. And he's like, bro, I felt so powerful at that moment. I felt like I could literally accomplish anything because he had the discipline to say no. And speaking from my own experience through 75 hard, I've quit before because I was around people drinking, and I'm like, you know what? I'm in 20 days, fuck it. I'll start over again later. And then you start drinking beer. The fact that you were able to do that is savage. And so that whole personal development side of you, the side that kind of sets this tone, this expectation, this, allows you in your mind to understand that, this is, you haven't fully developed yet, right? How do you keep all that together, and how does it impact your teaching in the classroom?
I think at the time I wasn't doing 75 hard alone. Um, I was also doing it with my girlfriend Hayden. So I felt like if I failed, I would have just let her down. Um, I think that was like a big uh that was a big like a support system for me, because I've tried 75 hard before. I've tried it before alone, and I didn't complete it. I was on day 20 something, and I forgot to take a progress photo, and I just felt like it was over. But um, the way that goes back to the classroom is, these kids see you as a role model. You're a teacher. They see you every day for 4 years, and you should at least be proud to be that person that goes in the classroom, and you walk in, the kids are like, oh, he's here, because you can see it when you get a sub. They're like, oh, we have a sub now, you know. Um, they'll ask you questions. The kids are always like, well, the biggest one I get, how much can you bench press? It's like, is that all you want in life, is to bench press pretty heavy? Like, you know, um, it's funny too, because like the kids they'll say, they'll cuss every once in a while. It's either your 10 push-ups or detention. And they'll start fighting each other like, oh, you cussed, do your 10 push-ups. It's so funny. But it's like, man, it makes you feel good. You walk in the classroom and they ask you questions. Hey, so what should your diet look like? And then like, I eat a lot. Well, what do you eat? Oh, I eat school lunch food. I have chips when I get home. I'm like, no, dude, start, let's do this, you know? Or you share their workouts. You share a workout with them, and then they text you later on. Hey, I tried your leg day. I'm not gonna be able to walk. I did your shoulder routine. Little tips and tricks. And it's just like they're like, man, I felt a huge difference. And I think it's those little small things that grow. You start building a foundation with them, and then who knows? Maybe later on they have their own kids, and they're like, who taught me that? My welding teacher taught me that. You know what I mean? I think that's huge. I
Well,
think I'm
go ahead.
it's more than just to teach one subject, you know, don't be one dimensional. It's like kind of know it all because it's yeah, your your classroom is like your starting point, right? But when you go, you learn everything a little bit about everything. It's like, oh crap, this guy actually knows what he's talking about. And if I apply those things, I can you know, better than him. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Well, you talk about like the accountability piece of doing 75 hard, right? You didn't want to let your girlfriend down at that time. Would you say that there's a sense of not wanting to let your students down is why you continue to wake up and keep grinding it out and showing up and giving it your all?
Yeah, I would say so. Some of the kids actually, okay, so the reason why we did 75 hard was because one of my students said, hey, I'm doing 75 hard. You guys want to do it with me? I'm like, yeah, let's do it. And we started June 1st. Um, and he ended up failing, and we just kept going with it. And you know, when we messaged him on day 75, and he's like, okay, I'm going to restart. Right. And man, I really think it goes back to being the person that you say you really are. I really think it goes back to
Mm.
the kids are funny, man. They go every day. They for some reason they always have this like redneck accent, and they're just like that guy wakes up at 3 in the morning every day and goes gets his 75 hours in one day, and it's just like, dude, I'm just a teacher, man. Like my job ain't that bad. you know, it's funny, man, but I think it's the accountability for the students.
Yeah. Well, and when you talk about not being one dimensional, I was kind of like journaling this morning as part of like my routine. And um I don't know, I had this thought, and I feel like it connects to what you just said, in the sense that like so much in ag education, I think we push a lot of content, like I teach this class, I need to be really like, I need to be the world's best welder, or I need to know everything there is about agriscience or ag biology, or I'm coaching this team, so I'm just gonna like cram, like help have them memorize as much content as possible. Whereas if you step away from the one dimension and you do what you're talking about, which for me has more to do with like self-mastery, like 75 hard to me, and I haven't done it, and now I feel like I'm very much being challenged to figure out when I'm going to start that and do that, because now I want to know that I can do it too. But to me, it's less about like, oh, this workout that I did, like you're figuring stuff out when you go through it, right? When you're choosing to put yourself in one of, the most difficult things that you could do physically, mentally, I probably even, emotionally or spiritually, like the growth that you're going through. When kids see you doing that, they see you making life changes. They see you, showing up in your own life differently, in the community differently. It's like, oh, okay. He doesn't just know how to weld. He knows how to figure stuff out. He knows how to go through hard things. He knows how to change. He knows how to evolve. He knows how to transform, and when kids walk in the classroom, like they might be there to take a welding class, they might be there to learn ag chemistry, but like you've got this opportunity to like totally change their life. And 9 times out of 10, it's probably not going to happen with like the one-dimensional content that most people show up sharing, but that was just my little
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's about being that example, right? Like I think there's more than I would say that students that graduate that you have taught, and I think all three of us would agree with this, and probably most of the people listening, but once you see a student go out into the world and has graduated and as either getting married or working a full-time job or whatever that looks like they're not going to thank you for the lessons that you thanks for teaching me that lesson on carburetors, Mr. Withers. That really changed my fucking life. No, it didn't. we we know you're full of shit. It
Yeah.
might have helped you post-secondary college, or like maybe you came up like into that situation, but that didn't help you. It's those stories that you tell, or just the person that you were
Mhm.
to them, right? They're going through a rough time in their life and you have that conversation, or maybe you called them out on their bullshit and all of a sudden that woke them up to like, I got to stop being a shithead and focus and be, more mindful of the things that I do. And so making that impact is so much bigger than just the curriculum that you're putting down, right? Should you be a good teacher? Of course. But you should be a good person. And being a good person is being able to set that example, right? And that's what that personal development piece, and I think all three of us here would agree, that sets that example for these students. Seeing your former students posting videos of them in the gym, lifting, that's impact. You had something to do with that, right? And I'm making a point to cheer them on, and I think all of us probably do that too, right? So it's just when they see a person that is that disciplined in life, that puts forth that kind of effort into their own personal development, it makes them feel like they can do it too. And Bull, you and I have talked about this multiple fucking times, but a lot of days, your dad in the classroom, you might be the one person that gives a shit about that kid, or at least that's how they feel. And so giving them somebody to look up to and to act as that mentor in their lives is that makes the world a difference for a person. And being able to show up and do that every day is, I think, more importantly than anything else we talk about on here, I think that's the message we're trying to convey to people, is that is who you are, and that's who you should really work hard to want to be a better
Yeah,
version, right?
absolutely. Mhm. Absolutely.
I know we're getting kind of close to wanting to wrap up key thoughts and ideas. But I want to ask, so just again, year one, you're completing year three, heading into year four. If you could, like, if we could wave our magic wand and ensure that everybody listening, like, they take this one thing away, what's the one thing that you would tell other ag educators? Like, do this, be about this. What would your like biggest suggestion, tip, encouragement be for them to do this coming school year?
Be a good classroom teacher and be the person that you needed when you were a student.
Mic drop.
I was not a great high school student, but I enjoyed my ag classes because my ag teacher was somebody that I looked up to, you know. I can tell you right now, I didn't show up to one chapter meeting, but I still passed all my classes with an A because I was always wanting to work for that one teacher. I failed English, I failed math, failed Spanish, because it wasn't interesting to me. Because then when I was in the shop, these were things that I would learn with my dad. As I was growing up, sprinklers, electrical, concrete, like all that. I was like, man, they're grading me on this stuff. Like I've been doing this stuff since I was 10. Like, you're really gonna give me a grade, and I'm gonna get credit. Like, I was like, really, this is it. And I think he like yelled like my dad and he dressed like my dad. I'm like, dude, this is like my Italian dad. And it was cool, man. And I think it's like being that teacher you needed when you were a high school student.
Cory, do you have any last questions that you want to ask? I feel like we're reading final rites or something.
I know, right? I'm still trying to get my brain back together because I'm fucking jet lagged. I've been 8 hours ahead for a week, so
Oh God.
I no, honestly, again, Bull, I can't stress enough how instrumental you have been in my life as a friend since in the last 4 years. And just, you know, when I'm in a rut, you're one of those people that I go to, and can talk this type of shit with, and and really get something out of it, right? To unvalidate the fact that for that moment I'm feeling like a piece of shit in my head. And the fact that you're still in this profession that I still hold near and dear to my heart, and this is why Colleen and I, decided to do what we're doing with this. Um, to be able to understand that you're doing these things while still in that profession and setting that example that we feel is important to set for the rest of our comrades and our fellow comrades that are still in it. um that's huge. And for me, I just I admire that about you, and admire your drive as a person. And just I I'm always going to root for Bull. So I appreciate you coming on here and sharing your insight. And I really think it's valuable message, especially for a lot of the younger teachers that are kind of looking to find some traction here within that first 3 years, 4 years of their career. So
Oh
thanks,
yeah.
man.
Yeah, man. Yeah, absolutely. Just to kind of, I guess since we're wrapping things up, uh, one of my buddies owns a sign shop, and he invited me over one day, and he's showing me all his equipment and stuff. And so this is where I print this is where I make stickers, this is where I make t-shirts. And I asked him, I was like, dude, you're like, I met him at the gym, you know and we were just talking, and he was like, I was like, so what made you want to do this? He's like, I worked for a guy, and I just knew I can do it. He's like, I would listen to Gary Vee, I listen to all these other people, and Gary Vee would say, if I was restarting, I wouldn't listen to anybody. I would just go do. And at the time, I was like, dude, I would listen to like Cory. I was like, Cory, do you listen to this? Do you listen to this? Do you listen to this? And ever since then, man, I kind of just stopped. Like I'd go on YouTube and listen to like podcasts and do that. And I stopped, man. I was like, dude, I'm just gonna go do me, and I'm just gonna go try to figure it out. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, okay. It's not the end of the world. Uh, It's been good, man. Like I said, I enjoy it. It's been like anything, ups and downs. But I think you wouldn't have a high if you didn't have a low, you know? So just don't let it get to you. Everything, there's always moments in the career where it gets really difficult. It's okay to go find a teaching partner or a colleague that you enjoy talking to, and just, hey, can I talk to you? Preferably someone outside your department, you know, or a friend, or someone from a different ag department, because it does get stressful. You work with people, and it gets annoying at times and stuff like that. But if you really enjoy it, you got to remember the outcome, right? It's not, is that old saying, teaching is for the outcome, not for the income or whatever. But make a pretty good income too. So
Yeah.
Colleen, you got any final thoughts?
No, I mean, there's just I really hope that when people see this one, that they're open to, I think, the message that's here, because there's so much good stuff. And in hearing some of what you said, Bull, you'd think that we like spoon fed you or told you, hey, make sure you like tell people to focus on classroom first, and have
yeah,
some boundaries. Don't put too much on your plate. Like, do a few things really, really well. And we didn't do that. We shared kind of some general questions that we might use to guide the conversation a little bit. But what I think is really cool about what just happened for us this morning is that when you start to have this shift towards like self-mastery, when you start choosing to put yourself outside your comfort zone and do the hard stuff on purpose, and you bring greater intentionality to the things that you're doing, man, it's just like, it's freaking awesome to have these 3 different experiences and mindsets on the podcast this morning. So I just want to say thank you. I think it's been phenomenal. I love how you talk about building connection with your students. I love, again, just that, you know, and you said it yourself, like you don't feel like you are who you're meant to be yet. But quite frankly, anybody that does, anybody that thinks they've already like made it to their finish line, what the heck are you doing with the rest of your life then? Like if today is like it, like this is where you're gonna be, then what's the purpose for your next 60, 70, however many years, right? So I think your mindset's freaking awesome. You've challenged me and you probably weren't even intending to do that. So I will be looking at my calendar so that I can do a 75 hard. But yeah, I think this has been super freaking cool.
Don't even look.
I know,
Don't even look.
I know, but I want to selfishly be so strategic.
Oh,
I'm like,
that's the
can I
thing.
do this?
Do
Can I
it.
do this in June when I have to travel like 2 different times? But yeah, so we'll see, but that's going to be coming. But so for everybody watching, we're going to not call you. Well, we do call people out. We're also going to call you up, but I challenge you to do this. How about if you are a teacher with less than 5 years experience, drop a question in the comments. If you're an ag teacher with greater than 5 years experience, answer a question in the comments. Let's really lean into the community that we're trying to build here. There's such a wealth of knowledge in our profession. We just need to get people willing to talk to each other more. And we know that doesn't happen all the time at our structured meetings, but you know, we're going to make it happen here. So if this episode resonated with you, like it, comment, share it with somebody that needs to see it and hear it, because whether they're a fan, a foe, or a friend, we want everybody to hear this message. Okay. So with that, we'll see you guys next time. Have a great week and we'll see you soon.